What's going on, people? So, I got these shoes initially, like these ones right here, like so long ago. There's a whole sizing thing, there's a big debacle, if you will, right? Well, that's overstating it. It really is. That's just a lie, honestly. Minor confusions, I guess. You know, sometimes things just don't fit great. Either way, so let's go ahead and knock this thing out real quick. I'll get into all that a little bit later. So this right here, let's get that out of the way. This right here, the Nike Pegasus Trail 5 Gore Tex in the South Kaibab Trail colorway. Yeah, saying trail in there twice kind of makes it sound a little bit weird, you know? Remember these? It's basically like this same colorway. This is like the standard, like the non-GoreTex Trail, right? Same colorway, just GoreTex version, so they just move the colors around. And now you have this. So let's talk about it a little bit, huh? So we are going to start this thing on the bottom because that seems like a fine place to start. So down there, you're looking at the same type of stuff you would normally see on like any other sort of trail shoe, right? Got those big notches down there, whatever they're called or whatever, which makes it a little weird to walk on if you're not on a trail, but trail-wise, it's going to be a thing you want. And it has a pretty decent color layout, at least in my personal opinion. So there's that for you. Let's go ahead and move on past that a little bit here. So from the side angle, right, see like the midsole and all that stuff, it's pretty decent, you know, got a little bit of color going on in there, so that's kind of nice, little speckles and stuff like that. Otherwise pretty plain, I guess, but on the inside, in case you're wondering what things look like over there, basically like the same, you know, but you probably saw that coming now, didn't you? But anyway, so we can move on past that. I'll give you another picture or two real quick before we go jumping on into things, and I do some sort of review that doesn't cover a whole lot of details and whatever, because that's kind of how I'm feeling right about now. But yeah, pretty decent look overall, right? And if this isn't for you, like a lot of things, these do have a good number of colors available. I'm pretty sure there's at least like 6 or 7, something like that, right? Anyway, so the materials down here, right, that make up, I was going to say like the toe box, but like it's basically everything, right? It's going to be, you know, some sort of stiff mesh type of feeling thing. I don't know. It doesn't feel great, but I mean, it's Gore-Tex, so it's made to feel that way because it has a functionality to it, like a purpose. So it's not always going to be like the nicest feeling thing, but it'll get the job done, right? So, you know what, that's all that's going on in there, right? Then you move to the middle area, you got a little bit of branding on in there, right? This sort of overlaid netting sort of thing happening with some pink and or purple or whatever. You see it, you know what colors those are, right? Maybe, I don't know. And then in the back, you know, got the little cactus guy hanging out back there, as I think you did on the last one, right? Yeah, you did. Same sort of deal, right? So there's going to be all that stuff for you, right? So let's go ahead, moving on past all that visual over there. Front side, right, with the laces and everything. Lacing system, that's where things get a little bit weird. So we'll talk about that for a second. Because this extra crap that they have on here, right? You didn't have that on the standard version. It was just like normal laces. You know, you got some fly wire in there, and it's just built right into the shoe, right? Very convenient in that way, because with these, it adds a lot of extra stuff in there. So much like the VaporMax 2020, I want to say it was, when you, at true to size, when walking in these, like this part here, just like is super uncomfortable on the upper part of your foot, right? Which is why the whole half size up thing happened, right? So that's a thing. Know that going into this. It's not ideal, right? Otherwise, laces, pretty standard stuff. I like them, right? They look kind of cool. So there is that. And then behind that, between this sort of split tongue sort of thing, it's like really close in here. It's weird. But down there at the bottom, you got the same sort of mesh you had on the rest of the upper. Up at the top, some sort of nylon-y sort of feeling thing. Feels real nice and smooth. A little bit of branding and some Gore-Tex nonsense going on up there, letting you know what you're getting into in case you ever forget. And that kind of lines up with what you see on the inside, right? It does get a little bit different in some kind of ways around like this upper sock liner type of area. So looking at that, right, it's kind of weird, you know, but once you wear it, it kind of stands up a little bit more. It's almost like those, what was it, the 350 compact, where like when you're not wearing it, it looks kind of weird. Then when you are, it looks, well, in those cases, just less weird. This actually starts to look normal. So either way, down on the inside here, right, got this little donkey guy hanging out. So that's what's going on there. On the other one, you have this little sign, which is saying whatever that sign is saying. Otherwise, past that, both shoes are pretty much the same. Only other difference being the logo on the front here. And one thing that I didn't want to mention before, I'll just slip some pictures in. On the inside here, they do come with like some really cool paper that lines up with like the trail thing, because these are based off of the South Kaibab Trail. I may not be saying that right, but whatever. So it's based off of that, and it even has a little sticker somewhere in there, right? So that's pretty cool. I like them. And I think my brother will like them also, which is why there's a second pair here. This pair is going to him. He lives out in Colorado, does a lot of Colorado things, so he needs some shoes for that. I feel like this was like a good call, so I'll find out whenever he gets them, which should hopefully be the end of, well, maybe like within the next 2 weeks. I don't know. So there's going to be that. Let's do some personal thoughts and stuff, and then some sizing. Personally, right? I like these. I saw them. I thought like that'd be a cool one to have because I like the first version, like the standard version, and these colors are like largely the same, just kind of a different layout in some kind of ways, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Got them in hand and stuff, and I was looking at them thinking, yeah, this right here was a good decision. That's always a good feeling, you know, when you get something in hand after giving somebody some amount of money, you're like, yeah, this is looking pretty all right. Then I put them on eventually, and that's where things got a little bit weird, you know? In the store, they didn't feel so bad, but I think those had been worn like a million times. But when I got them here, then it was a little bit different. I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to see where all these comments come in. But overall, though, like as far as like the look of these, no complaints. I also like the variety of choices, you know. Like I said, they got a good 5 or 6. So all in all, things are looking pretty good. And I can say, just even having not worn these yet, but being a big fan of like the overall Pegasus Trail line, I did wear the other pair a decent amount, so I know that I'm getting into something good as far as like the actual trail use goes too. So yay for that. Yay all around, I guess. So let's do some sizing, some comfort, and wrap this thing up. I bought these not true to size. I bought these a half size up. I say true to size so often, it just like comes out. Initially, I did buy them true to size. It didn't work out great because that whole thing I said earlier about all that nonsense on the middle upper part of the shoe, you know, like where the laces are. Yeah, it is just not comfortable. It's a little bulky and stuff, right? Which is unfortunate because otherwise the dimensions of the shoe felt fine. Right now I do feel like I have like a little more room lengthwise than I would want, but it's at least overall more comfortable so that I can make up with that. You know, that's not a big deal. Overall comfort and like the upper being like a huge problem, yeah, I'm not a fan of that. So half size up. It's still somewhat of a narrow-ish build, you know. I mean, you can probably tell that looking at it. But these I have seen in a lot of stores. So, well, I've seen them in Dick's Sporting Goods. I guess that's a store. But anyway, so go ahead, check them out there, right, or wherever they may be. Also, Nike has a pretty good return policy, so you got that going too. Past that, though, walking around in them, right? I'm not a huge fan of wearing trail shoes to walk around in just like casually because that extra height that you get from those like ridges and whatever on the bottom, it just tends to feel a little bit weird, right? But once you get them where they're supposed to be, which would be a trail, then things work out pretty well. And they have an upper that is supposed to kind of give you some sort of snag-free design or whatever. So if you're running through like the bushes and shrubs and whatever, it shouldn't be a big deal. And just in general, this ReactX stuff is feeling pretty all right too. I've had no complaints about that. I was just wearing some Camaro 18s the other day, which have a whole lot of it in there too. So all in all, the shoe, comfort-wise, really good. The one thing I can't quite talk about right now because I haven't worn them yet in the right conditions, I guess, or at all, would be the Gore-Tex thing. It says that they're waterproof, right? That's what the tag says. So I'm going to assume that that's true. Hopefully that's true. If I ever find myself in a situation where I need that, you know, I guess then if I'm wearing these, then I'll find out. But it should be at least good enough for like, you know, whatever puddles and whatnot may be out there. Because that's for the most part all I will be running around in. Because I'm not going to just be outdoors running through like straight up rain and true like trenches or anything. That sounds just disgusting. So no thank you to that. But just wearing these standard wise trail things happening here and there. Yeah, I'm feeling like this will be a pretty alright one to have. So, and it was only like $107 or something. Super cheap, these things. You know, because I guess they probably have another model coming up. So maybe they're just trying to get ready for the next ones and push out the old ones. Or maybe nobody was buying these. I don't know. Either way, it saved me some money, and that's all that really matters. Me saving money. So, then again, I just spend it all. Whatever I just save just gets spent somewhere. It's more just diverted. From me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'm going to move on and talk about some other Nike shoes. Some Air Max DNs winterized. Doesn't that sound fantastic? Later, people.